Welcome everybody to an Aerosmith Toys in the Attic Classic Round and Round. This is a Brad Whitford written with Steven Tyler song, and it really has kind of a dark, brooding feel to it. So for my sound, as you heard in that intro, which is just shortened to show you some of the parts we'll be going over, I wanted to get a little bit darker sound. So I always put myself in 1975, okay, what would have been popular back then? Well, the Boss distortion pedal, the orange distortion pedal, the DS1 was real popular. And that's been actually put out again by DOS with a Waza Craft switch on it. They call it an upgrade. It brings out the mid-range, but I'm using the original tone of the DS1. So got the output all the way out, and my distortion's at about 9 o'clock, and my tone's about 9:30, 10 o'clock. So that really gave me that kind of a brooding, like I said, feel to this. The other thing I did is with my Richie Kotzen Telly, I'm using the split, or not the split, but the out of phase setting on it. So you put it in the middle position, and this isn't a treble or treble control. It's either in phase or out of phase. So I took it out of phase, and I feel I really captured the tone with that. So if that helps you, an out of phase tuned guitar with something emulating or close to a darker distortion pedal will really get you there. All right, the tune is in standard tuning. I've got my notes available just below. Just click on the link and you can download them to help you go along with the video. So the song starts out A to B power chord to C and then D. The A power chord is an 8 count, the B power chord is an 8 count, the C power chord is an 8 count, the D power chord is it's basically a 4 count, then you hit that 5th string once again, and I'll show you the riff. But the reason I'm mentioning this is, as I will show you, they emphasize that first beat of the 4. And it's a real kind of Aerosmith trademark, if you will. Alright, so once we get to the D, like I said, it's only a 4 count. And then we're going to hit it one more time. I use my middle finger and slide up from the 6th fret to the 7th fret of the 5th string, and then quickly move my first finger back to the 5th fret of the 4th string. And then end with the 5th string at the 7th fret. Excuse me. It really sounds to me, he might even be just rolling it. But you can do the slide. Either or, it sounds fine. Once you hit that 7, you're going to slide down. And then we're going to be into the main riff of the song. So go over the intro at a slow tempo so you can see how it all fits together. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then what we do, like I said, we slide down, and then what we're going to do is hit the 6th string at the 3rd fret with a slight bend and a pull off to open. And then we're going to come to the 7th fret, another E, alright, so we pulled off to E. Now we're going to strike the 7th fret of the 5th string. Then we're going to hit the E twice muted, and then one more time. So it's 2 together and then 1 a little separate. And then it's, we'll hit E again. Then our 6th string E muted, and then to the D note on the 5th string. So all together from the G pull down, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that again is the intro. They'll only do those E notes to the D twice in the intro. It'll sound like this. Let's just go over the whole intro. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, the third time, we are into the verse. All right, so that's Brad's part. Now, Joe is sticking up here in the first position. All right? I don't think he's playing split coils. I think he's playing more humbucker sound. But he's a little less in the mix, so at least at this point. So what Joe is playing are the same notes, but up here on the 4th string. Alright, so this is consistent throughout the verses too. But he'll pull down on that 3rd to open E, and then he catches a 4th string at 2. Then our 2 hits and another hit on the muted 3rd string, or 6th string. Then back to our 2nd fret of 4, and back to the 6th string, and then to 4th string open. And then we repeat. So that's Joe's part, where he's just doing something different from Brad. All right, so for verse 1, which I wrote for Brad playing, but again, if you want to play Joe's part, you just do that. We're going to do it for 4 measures. All right, each measure contains 2 sets of it. That's a half measure, then you do it again, but there's 4 full measures. All right, so that'd be 8 times through before we come into basically the intro. We're going to go to the A, B, C, and D. All right, we'll go through that lick 2 more times before they start verse 2, which again, verse 2, 4 measures of the lick, or 8 times through. We'll go to the A through the D power chords with our... All right, one more time. And then we're into, I'm calling it the break. I don't know if you call it the chorus. It's just a different chording. He's not really singing round and round at this part. So I just called it break 1, but we'll go over the 2 parts that Brad and Joe are playing. So the break 1, we'll go through Brad's part first, and then it will happen again. I'm calling it break 2, but these happen consecutively. All right, so we've got this with Brad's part. into the second break. The break starts, basically it's a G chord, and when we get to the 4th string, we're going to go from 5 to 4, back to 5 on the 4th string. And then end up on 4, before we go to an F chord and do the same thing. Just grab your 6th string at the 3rd fret, pull that down, and start the lick 2 times through. And again, the break comes in, break 2. Alright, so we know that last lick. So that's what Brad does in that break. Joe does something totally different. He's playing a melody. So I'm going to come in from the last verse lick into what Joe plays. Okay, so Joe's doing his lick just like Brad does up here at the 1st fret, and then he's going to grab the 5th string at the 5th fret and slide that up to 10. And then right below that, he'll catch 9 to 10, back to 9, 10, 9. Then he goes to the 3rd string from 7 and slides that up to 10. Alright, so we have this from the lick. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we come up and do a unison bend. We'll be on the F note, or the 13th fret of the 1st string, and we'll be bending up the 2nd string at 16. Alright, so all together, one more time. This is a great lick. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, from there, we just repeat everything again. We'll do the lick. So, again, the 2 breaks happen simultaneously before we're into verse 3. Okay, so after the 3rd verse, there's no build up with the A to B to C to D chord. We go into the bridge. So I'm going to do the 3rd verse, last measure, which is our typical lick, 2 times, and then go into Brad's part of the bridge before we go over Joe's part. So we got this. Alright, so what Brad does is build up on the 4th string from 7. In between each one is our little takeoff from the 6th string with the 3 bent to open. So he'll go up 8, 9, all the way up to 14. And hold that, okay? Joe's part will start on, okay, the 4th string, 2, 4, 5, 6. Then he goes to the 3rd string. Then we start the solo rhythm. Okay, the solo's a lot different. Joe's solo rhythm for this is a lot different from anything we've learned so far. During the solo rhythm that Joe does, he starts out here at the 7th position. This lick will repeat twice. I'm going to play it once and then we'll go over it. Alright, so what he's doing there, 7 on the 6th string to the 10th fret, back to 7. And then we're going to go back and forth from the 9th fret of the 4th string back to the 7th fret of the 6th string, then 7th fret of the 4th string back to 7th fret of the 6th string. And then we go 10, and then it's like a 7's almost palm muted to 9 on that 4th. And then there's a little just muted note before he hits the D and the E. Alright, so all together again, we'll do it slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then he ends it up 10 to 7 on the 6th string and lands on 9 on the 4th. So after the second time of doing that lick for the solo rhythm, Joe, that's basically B there. Now we're going to move to E, all right? So we'll be centered around really the 3rd, the 2nd fret. So it'll sound like this. The whole thing, but what he's doing when we start out with our 7 to 10, all right, he's starting out with a 3 to 0, 2nd fret of the 4th string, and then coming back to the 6th string, open 3 to open, and then we go 2 on the 4th string to open 6 to open 4th, and then open 6. Then open 6 again to 3 and open. Then we move to the 5th fret, hammer on from the 4th string, 5 to 7, and then power chord G to A, and start over. So those are the two first measures of the solo. Then we go into basically what I call the bridge parts, which are overdubbed because Brad is still playing the solo, and you've got the two overdub parts going. You got Joe's melody. So that will happen one time through, all right? Again, Brad's still doing his lead, so we've done that break one time, and then we go back into, so after that first overdub with Joe, we go into, with Joe playing. All right, Brad will come in halfway through that with his, quote, second lead. He's just going to be, I forget even where it's at. We'll go over that. But then, again, we do the break lick. Well, we hear... All right, so we've done that. Now, this second time through, Joe extends it slightly to bring us back around and into what's basically the outro lick. All right, so what Joe does when he's playing these chords, or if it's Brad, I don't know, it's the overdub, it'll sound like this. or we start the outro. Alright, so we'll go over that outro next, but like I said, he extends this lick from the G, actually it's the F that gets extended. He'll go 3, 2, 3, and back to 2 on the 4th string. And then he'll go 3, 2, 3, and then 6th string at the 3rd fret to open 5th and 2nd fret of the 5th. So that's the difference. Again, I wrote it out. It'll help you if you're a little confused at where we're at. But this all happens during Brad's second lead, just as it. So for the outro, it's the first 2 measures I'll play for you. The difference is we're going to do the D lick twice. The second time we're going to add an F to it before we come back to E and D. Alright, so it'll sound like this. Then we're going to take off. So we'll talk about this lick that goes on for the outro. The outro lick, the way I wrote this out is every note will have this between them. Alright, so our 3 pull down to open, slide back. Alright, and what we're going to do is just move up 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. On the 4th string, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way up to 16. Alright, at that point, we'll move to 13, 14, and 16. I'm sorry, 13, 14, 15, 16, and then 17 on the 2nd string. Alright, then we go to the 1st string. We're going to go all the way up. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. And it starts fading out. Okay? So without all the minutia of the lick between, again, I've written it out, all the specific changes there. That's how they come out of the song. So for Brad's solo, we're going to be here at the 7th position, and it starts out on the 2nd string. Alright, that's the first half measure. So what he does is hit this 10th fret of the 2nd string with a bend, and then once without the bend. Then we're going to go to the 7th fret of the 2nd string, hammer onto 10, and then bend it slightly. Hit it again without being bent, back to 7. Then we come back to 10 with 2 bends before we hit 7, and then the 9th fret of the 4th string. At that point, we'll do a double stop on the 7th fret of the 3rd and 2nd string, and then 9 with a slight bend of those 2 strings. And then we're going to do a bend and release and pull off to 7 on the 3rd string. Alright, so all together, Brad's first half measure of the solo. 1, 2, 3, 4. After that, we're going to hit 10 bent and catch 7 on the first to 7 on the second to 10 on the second. And then 7 on the first, back to 10 on the second, pulled off to 7. So far we have this. Then we go 7 on the first string to 10 bent, 10 unbent, back to 7, and 10 pulled off to 7. Then we'll hit 10 on the second string, back to 7 on the first. And then ending this measure on the 10th fret of the second string with a bend and vibrato. Alright, so the second half all together. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, at that point, we're staying in this position. We're going to hit 7 on the second to 10, back to 7. Then we'll hit 10 pulled off to 7. Coming to third on the, ninth fret of the third string, back to 7 on the second, and then 9 pulled off to 7. 9, 7, and then 9 with a bend and vibrato. So that's the first half measure of this. First half measure of this. Yeah, of the second measure. All right. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I suck. So that's the second measure of the first half. We'll do that again together slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we go kind of Chuck Berry style, 7 on the second to 7 on the first, back to 7 on the second, before we land to 10 bent with some vibrato on the first. That really leads us to a position change. All right, so let's go over that again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we come up to the 15th fret and we're going to pull off 14 to 12. And then we'll take 14 on the third string, bend that up, and hit it again bent before we go to 12 on the second and 12 on the first. We'll hit 15 on the first, bent with some vibrato. Then we'll catch 15 on the second, back to 12 on the first, and then 15 on the first, bent with vibrato. Alright, so from our 15, 14 to 12 pull off of the second string. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, the last measure of the solo, we'll stay here at the 12th position. We're going to hit 15 to 12 on the first string, then 15 to 12 on the second, before we hit 15 bent and release before pulling off to 12. Then we hit 14 with a bend and vibrato, and then 14 pulled off to 12 to end it. So we have this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, then we have the last part to show you is Brad's lead part 2. Brad's second lead, very short, but it's all again in this 12th position. It'll be this. So he's hitting 12 on the first string, then pulling off from 15 to 12, and he'll do that twice. Landing on the third string at 14 before coming back to the second string at 12. Then 14 on the third, pulled off to 12 twice. Landing on the fourth string at 14, and then 14 on the third string with a bend and a slow release. have this slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, you've got the whole song. I really hope that helps everybody. It's a fun, like I said, chugging kind of a song, almost in the vein of When the Levee Breaks. Just kind of a dark sounding song, but fun to play. So I hope everybody enjoys.